stream us at thewolfUWG.com or the Odyssey app.
Welcome to Wolves of the Written Word.
More college students should read.
Reading is cool.
Have you ever read a book before?
Of course I have. This show used to be a podcast.
Dystopian is my favorite genre.
That's depressing.
Wow, I can't believe that's banned.
Wolves of the Written Word.
Wolves of the Written Word.
Wolves of the Written Word. Wolves of the Written Word. Wolves of the Written Word. Wolves of the Written Word. Wolves of the Written Word.
Enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wolves of the Written Word, Wolf Radio's flagship book show where you talk about books, reading, and, of course, the written word. And if you're just tuning in for the very first time, we have a couple of rules that we like to establish on this show to engage a bit more with our fellow readers. Rule number one is that we talk about the good and the bad of all things literature. It's easy to talk about the bad, but we also like to talk about the good as well. Rule number two is that we like to read something before, of course, we talk about it on the show, but there has been exceptions. You can't read every single book in one single day. And rule number three, of course, is the most important. We're here to have fun and mostly just talk about our favorite reads and our favorite books. So how was everyone's weekend?
Really nice. Yeah, it was really productive.
Yeah, as productive as it can be. The weekend is way too short, if you ask me.
That part. I think it should be 4 days instead
At
of 3
least
days.
minimum. We should have 3-day weekends, 4-day weekends every weekend.
Well, every day's a 4-day weekend for me since I don't have any classes on Monday.
Oh, okay.
See, I personally would rather not have a class on Thursday than Monday.
Same.
Like, I would prefer Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
Yeah.
Thursday,
Because
and then Friday, Saturday.
I already don't have classes on Friday, so I would just be like, take out my Thursday classes. Let's just knock it out. Then I get my 4-day weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. And I know that daylight savings actually happened yesterday.
That
Daylight savings
actually
messed me up.
because I was doing my hair, and then I just saw the clock like skip, and I was like, "Wait,
No,
no."
I was up with my brother and my dad, and we were playing on my brother's PlayStation. And I was just like, "Oh yeah, we're good. It's only like 12 o'clock." And then my mom was just like, "No, it's 1 a.m. And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "Daylight savings." And I was like, "Oh."
Like seeing the clock go back, like skip that hour,
It
actually threw me for a
actually-
It
loop.
actually went forward. Yep.
Yeah,
Spring
it
forward,
went from
fall
2 to
back.
1 to 3,
It
right?
like it
Or
just
Yeah, it went
something.
from 1 a.m. to 3 a.m.
Yeah, something. That was like, it made me really upset
yeah, it
seeing
messed
that.
me up. And then waking up the next day, I was so tired, and I don't know why. Because it's not like you sleep less; you sleep the same amount that you were gonna sleep, even if daylight savings didn't happen. It's just like seeing the time difference throws me for a loop.
Completely.
Yes, of course. And I know that for daylight savings, it definitely was a shock to me. I was on the computer, I was just editing, and then I saw it from 1 a.m., and then suddenly it just jumped ahead. and
It's
it was
3
like,
o'clock now.
It's
Are
3
we
o'clock now.
serious?
No, actually, like okay, it doesn't get pitch dark at 7 o'clock now, but is it worth it?
At what cost?
At what cost?
Yes. And I am very excited for this episode because we are now talking about reading mediums, where we talk about the differences between the way that people actually read. And this is actually a very in-depth discussion episode that we're going to focus on here today. Print versus audiobooks versus ebooks. Now, of course, if you're just tuning in and if you don't really know what these things are, just stay tuned. But print, of course, is your average regular book. It's on pages, it's on paper, and you see it at your library. Everyone knows this. An audiobook is an audio-only version of the book. You can listen to it mostly on YouTube, or it has only a single narrator, or, for my favorite, it has a full cast, where they have all the characters voiced by different people. And then we have ebooks. Now, I know that ebooks are kind of like, maybe on the tablet, maybe like your Kindle or your Amazon Fire or something. And often or not, also, it's mostly like an online article maybe. And it's mostly because everyone's on their phone, they mostly just read a lot mostly, but it's mostly just that, often or not. And I know that we all each have our own personal preferences on what we like about reading. I know that I like usually the classics, print, of course.
I'm an audiobook realist over here.
I use all three, but I've been using ebooks a lot more recently.
Wow, of course. And I know that I do kind of dabble in different mediums as well. But I will say, though, that I kind of don't really listen to audiobooks as often, but I would like to. And for ebooks, it's a bit interesting because I do read fan fiction, so that kind of does
that is an ebook.
That does fall under that category as well. So it just feels a bit different compared to like what is expected. But I know that for ebooks, it is a bit more different. So for each of our segments today, we're actually going to be talking about the goods and the bad of each and every single print medium. So we're actually going to first talk about print books, the classic. Everyone has this, of course. It's physical. You can hold it in your hand. You can smell the pages, the fresh paper. It's just amazing. So I would say mostly because of the digital age and everything else, why do you think many readers still prefer physical books even with digital options still available?
I think it depends on, most readers will prefer to get like an actual physical book, so it actually feels like they're reading and it feels like they're really in the moment, present. They like feeling the pages. They like actually seeing it sitting there printed like how it was meant to be. But I also think it's partially because like sometimes it's a little bit easier to get access to just the actual physical book, or you can just go to the store, buy the book, or check it out at the library. So sometimes it's a bit easier to just have the physical book there.
Even at that, I really kind of I like how it looks when I buy a bunch of books and put it on my bookshelf, and I get really organized with it. So it really makes me happy seeing my bookshelf get full. So that's why I like print books.
That's real. I very much relate to that because I have a book buying addiction. I've said this before.
It's a problem.
It's actually a problem. Like I'll go to one of my favorite places on earth, Barnes & Nobles. I'll go to Barnes & Nobles and I will just sit there and I'll read the synopsis of books and I'll be like, I think I need this.
I need this. Put in my cart and I never read it.
Like I just re-got my Barnes & Noble's like membership card. I love it so much.
And I like the physical aspect of it because it's very much more comforting to have the physical story in my hand compared to like how accessible it is to maybe get it on your phone or your computer. Because as you know, we're all college students and we all know that it's a lot easier to get a book probably online, but it isn't as the same as just opening it up and reading it face to face, more so than like looking it up on the internet and then seeing it on your computer.
Yeah, and another thing is for me, for like a mystery genre books, I don't know if y'all do this, but like annotating them, and it's easier to annotate like an actual book rather than like an ebook, and you can't really annotate
like with all the tabs,
and
the
sticky
colors,
tabs,
and they'll color code it and stuff. Yeah, I used to do that a lot, and then I was just like, am I actually paying attention, or am I
just trying to make it pretty?
I only usually annotate nonfiction books rather than fiction books, but I do the annotating thing as well. Little colored markers or little tabs, though it does get a bit cluttered whenever I do it, so I have to like adjust it. But I would probably say that print is pretty much like the original kind of format. Ever since like hundreds of years ago when we started printing it out, kind of writing it by hand with scrolls. Then we have printing presses where you can do it in mass formats. But I would probably say that, were there anything that you would say is kind of a bigger problem with print? I know that, of course, there's not much you can complain about because it's a book. I mean, it's made out of paper, it's bound together, it has cool little covers. But what would you say is something that you dislike about print mediums?
I have two that I could think of right now. One, the price. Because going to Barnes & Nobles, I have to like mentally prepare myself weeks in advance for how much I'm going to spend on like 3 books. But I'm glad they do a bunch of like buy one, get one 50% off, because I think they know that we know it adds up. And two, I think how fragile paper can be. Like, let's say you're going in the rain and your book bag isn't waterproof and you have a book in there and then boom, that book is ruined. Because me personally, I hate an ugly book.
And that's actually happened to me multiple times before, that I've had like a hardcover book or I've had a paperback book that it got wet somehow or it got rained or somebody spilled water over it. Whole entire book is destroyed. And I remember when I was younger, I used to try, like if that happened to me, because there was one time that my younger brother accidentally spilled like a whole glass of water onto my paperback book and it was ruined, and I tried to save it by like using the hair dryer to like blow dry it. All the like the book has become expanded, the pages are crumpled now. Like it's so bad. And I also have problems with print when it comes to the amount of paper that we're using and then the pricing. It's just like, yes, print is the original medium because that's what they had, that's what they could do, that's how they could share these stories with people. But it's like, since then there's become all these tiny little problems that it comes with printing out so many copies of books and spending so much money to print this, especially if a book doesn't really do well, then you've spent so much money and you've done all this paper, you've done all these things that it's just kind of like, what are we going to do now?
Because I was listening to a Harry Potter podcast, and it said the reason why they think Fred gets mentioned so much in the book compared to George is because it saved J.K. Rowling money saying Fred's name over George. And it's so crazy that like 4 letters can make a difference on how much trees we're using and how much money you spend
How much
for
ink.
a book.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
ink too.
every single thing on a print book, that costs money. Because every tiny little word, every tiny little phrase, little punctuation point, it costs a lot.
Yeah, and I know that for price, I went to Barnes & Noble a couple of times. I paid, I think, maybe $60, $50 for 2 simple regular books. And I know that print, of course, is a bit weak, but there's only so much that you can kind of do. It's not indestructible, and there isn't waterproof paper yet. Yes. And I have suffered book destruction before whenever it rains. It mostly was my bag more so, where like my bag wasn't as like waterproof. And
were y'all using tote bags?
No.
Yeah, for me, tote bags kills me. Like, I cannot have a book in a tote bag without having like a protective barrier over it. And it's so crazy that I need like a book protector.
No, I was in AP literature and back in high school, and we had to read The Great Gatsby, and we had to annotate it with like highlighters. But my bag wasn't as durable against the rain. So when it was pouring down so often, even though everything was zipped up, the water seeped into my bag. So
And it ruined the book.
And it ruined the book. And all the sticky notes and all the annotations, it just bleeded onto the page pretty much. So even though that everything was inside, it just felt like I can't really fight against the elements that way. So it was just very hard. But it's still a comfort to know that we can still have the physical books in person rather than just everything completely digitized. At least then, after a while, when it dries, the book is still there and it doesn't disappear. But you know what doesn't disappear? Drinking responsibly. College students who binge drank alcohol at least 3 times per week were roughly 6 times more likely to perform poorly on a test or project because of drinking. Dream City Brewing Company, Wolf Sports, and Wolf Radio proudly remind you to drink responsibly campaign. Students 21 and over should drink responsibly in an environment that discourages overindulging. Faculty won't take hangovers as excuses. And we'll talk more about different print mediums right after the break.
I started reading a book about a maze. I got lost in it. You're listening to Wolves of the Written Word.
Ugh, I'm so happy to finally be out of class. Today's so boring. Hark, what is that distant melody I hear?
That, my friend, is the Wolf Radio Remote, a place to hang with friends, listen to some rad tunes, and connect with the students of Wolf Radio. You see that black tent in the distance?
Yeah?
Why don't we head there now?
Did you just teleport me?
That's the power of the remote, my man. Brought to you by Dine West at UWG_Dine_West.
keep calm and listen on. You're listening to Wolves of the Written Word.
When you look good, you feel good. If it fits good, you feel good. Now you can rep your favorite college station with our brand new merch store powered by Ozero Apparel. Visit thewolfuwg.com and click About. That's thewolfuwg.com and click About. Welcome back, everyone, to Wolves of the Written Word. And if you're just tuning in, we're talking about different reading mediums, print, audiobooks, and ebooks. Last segment, we talked about print, the classic and original that everyone can easily recognize because everyone has at least read one physical book before once in their life. And, of course, we're now going to talk about audiobooks. Kind of not really a revolutionary thing, but more so kind of like a different way of kind of experiencing the story. Now, just a little bit of history, of course. Audiobooks sort of fluctuated a bit, usually when radio, of course, what we're doing right now, started to become a bit more popular. More radio dramas and adaptations of original short stories and novels were adapted and broadcasted live over the air like we're doing now. Since then, audiobooks have become way popular, of course, with famous celebrities and very professional narrators giving a bit more grandiose and a lot more importance to the story. It's a way for you to kind of experience the story if you aren't able to directly read it, but it is a bit more different. So I would probably say, just for, again, opening the table to this question, what advantages do audiobooks offer that traditional reading cannot?
So, as the audiobook purist for this episode, I would say audiobooks allows like a bit of convenience to reading, if you ask me, because it's gotten to the point where more often than not these days, I will choose an audiobook over purchasing the physical book or checking out the physical book because it allows me to read it in such a faster period of time than it would if I was just like sitting down and try to read it in my spare time. I get through books a lot faster now. I get through entire series of books a lot faster now. And it also allows me to like imagine things a lot better than it would if I'm reading it in my head in my own voice because I'm hearing other people read it and I'm hearing them act out voices, even if it's like 3 actors where it's the narrator, the person doing the female voices, the person doing the male voices, even if they slightly change their voices for whoever they're reading, it allows like a level of imagination to the story.
Yes.
Is what I would say.
And I know that for audiobooks is a bit more different. And I know that for me, whenever I kind of open up and play an audiobook, I kind of experimented a bit because, as you know, the Harry Potter full cast just came out. And I think monthly they're releasing one of the, newer releases. Mm-hmm. And I kind of experimented. I listened to the audiobook while I was either walking or maybe laying down or maybe doing something like physical labor. I actually listened to the entire audiobook while I was doing yard work, picking up leaves and those little spiky balls that fall out of the pine cone trees and like mowing the lawn. But I feel like that for me, I do like kind of going back to print medium because it is good to just wind down with a book. But the audiobook does offer sort of a personal experience. Yeah.
Like whenever I'm not whenever, if my supervisor is listening, not every single time, but sometimes when I'm at work, if I have to work like a certain shift doing a certain job at my job, I'll put one of my AirPods in and I'll listen to an audiobook at like 2 times speed, which is another thing about me. And one of the reasons I like audiobooks, I don't listen to it in the regular speed. They're reading too slow for me. I'm listening in like 2.5 times speed. Cause like, let's get to the point. Let's really let's speed it up because it's easier to, maybe not easier to understand, but it's easier to digest that way, maybe, if you ask me.
And for me, the only audiobooks I've read have been romance. And it's just really, it's better to kind of distinct the characters when you're reading it. Because a lot of the time, romance books will just switch point of views. Yeah. And I'm like, whoa, when did this happen? But when I'm listening to it, it's easier to like tell the different characters and get to know them more because like their voices are so distinctive.
A good example of that is the Bridgerton books because especially like the first couple Bridgerton books, it'll be the women's perspective and then the men's perspective and then Lady Whistledown's perspective. And it's such a fast switch that when you hear the switch from like a male voice to a female voice, it's easier to understand who's talking in that moment.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, and I also noticed that whenever I was listening to the audiobook, I kind of noticed tiny little details that I would have passed over if I
When
were
you're-
to actually, read it in print. And it's actually very interesting to actually kind of go back on it because you can adjust your reading speed and everything. But for now, I would probably say that there are some disadvantages, of course, with audiobooks. Of course. I know that I'll open up the floor, of course, to anyone that can complain about how whatever problems an audiobook would have. But for me, I would probably say, for my opinion, of course, is that audiobooks is just kind of like it's kind of a removal of a medium almost. Like, I guess for when you actually listen to the voices and the sound effects, it does kind of seem a bit more performative rather than just when you're actually opening and reading it, of course. And I think that's one of the main reasons why it's harder for me to listen to an audiobook compared to like reading it, because it just feels like that I'm trying to watch a TV show or a movie compared, or maybe listen to a podcast, which I don't even do as often anyway, all the time anyway. So it's a bit harder for me to kind of do that.
Yeah, that makes sense. For me, a con is, again, the cost. I know Libby is free, but I use Spotify, and I learned that if you have the student account, you can't get Spotify audiobooks anymore. And I was like, oh my gosh, that sucks. But then when you get the normal account, you're only allowed 10 hours. And then you have to pay an extra $5 per 5 hours of listening. And the books that I read, 10 hours a month is crazy.
That's
like,
crazy.
I can't read like that. So, like, I feel like that's a really big thing. It's so expensive for audiobooks.
Yeah. See, I see both of those, and those were, when I first started reading audiobooks, that was kind of like, or listening to audiobooks, that was my main problem. It was the fact that, like, because I think the first time I ever started, it was on Spotify. And then I was just like, oh, I don't like this. Never mind, we're leaving Spotify. And then I went to Kindle. What's Kindle's version? Or like Amazon's
Audible?
version? Audible.
I love Audible.
I love Audible. But when I first started reading on Audible, I was just like, oh, you're not giving me as much as I want for how much I want it, and you're asking me for too much money, and that's not happening. So then that's when I started turning to apps like Libby, and then now I use YouTube a lot. If you search on YouTube, you can find like the full audiobook for free with a good voice actor for like the entire time, good timing, good quality. And then also listening to it and like feeling like it's a production, I also think that depends on who has made that version of the audiobook, because sometimes people will choose to like you said, kind of make it as if it's a TV show or it's a movie or it's an audio drama and make this like whole big production of it. But then sometimes you find those people who they're just reading the book, and they're just like changing their characters' names or changing their voices depending on the characters. So I feel like audiobooks, they have their problems, then they have their non-problems to solve their problems, but it all kind of depends on like how you're choosing to use the medium and who you're choosing to listen to for that use of the medium.
And I know it's a very big choice for anyone who is starting out with reading to find the right medium to pick out whenever they want to experience the story. But I think that we should begin discussing it on our own.
Silence in the court!
All rise. It is time for novel objections.
If you're just tuning in, of course, Novel Objections is our special segment where we begin having a hot take and we begin discussing it all directly. Now, since we have print, audiobooks, and ebooks all together, since we're discussing it in this episode, we all have decided to pick a side and present our reasons for why our medium is good for first-time readers. I, of course, have picked print. Adyia has picked ebooks, and Janelle, of course, is the audiobook fanatic already. So mostly just directly, just a very simple question: what makes our reading medium the best? Who would like to go first?
I feel like ebook should go first.
I could go first. I think ebook is the best way to read because of how versatile it is. You could read an ebook on your phone, on your iPad, on your tablet, on your Kindle Fire, and you could pretty much take it anywhere, especially compared to like a print book or an audiobook. Like, I could sit in class and download my textbooks and read it so easy and cheaper compared to paying for like a print textbook. And it's also really resource efficient because I'm not paying for trees to break down. It's just simply downloading it as a PDF and saving to my iPad.
Paying for trees to break down.
Yeah.
I don't know. That kind of felt like print book shade.
It was print book shade.
It was shade.
And you get no paper cuts when you're swiping through the books.
I should have said that as my con for print books. I hate paper cuts.
Yeah.
I hate it so much. I don't know. Print, do you have a rebuttal?
My rebuttal is that you can get a paper cut technically anytime you touch paper.
Mm-hmm.
So that is my rebuttal. It's not just books.
And what about the first half?
What was the first half? The tree thing?
Yeah, you're wasting trees and spending a lot of money.
Well, I would probably say that for print, of course, for my advantage of why print is the best medium, mostly is that it's kind of just the original, despite having the advantages and the accessibility of
Wait, so just because it's the original means it's the best?
Right. Who said the original is the best?
Yes, despite the
If the original was so good, then why do we have,
why did they make other mediums? Why did they make things?
Because, like, if you're blind, you can't, like, you have to use resources to read a paper book.
Right.
I mean, I know that because certain other mediums exist for other advantages, of course. Like, because it's accessible to get all your books in one place through an ebook, or, again, for people who unfortunately cannot see, they can, of course, use the audiobook to experience the book. But in the end, people will still go back to the print medium. Despite you guys liking audiobooks and ebooks, you still go to Barnes & Noble, pick up a physical book. And also, let's just say that it's not aesthetically pleasing either. I mean, you can't just buy audiobook CDs from Barnes & Noble.
Okay. Mine can be aesthetically pleasing. You haven't seen, like, the Kindle Fire girlies decorating their Kindle Fires to make it look adorbs?
They put all of their effort into, like, the narrator and the budget.
Who's to say that just because you're not physically buying a version of your audiobook that it's not aesthetically pleasing? Who's to say me listening to my audiobook is not an aesthetic? Who's to say me with my headphones in listening to whatever story that I'm listening to is not an aesthetic in and of itself? Because I'm the aesthetic, so whatever I'm listening to is aesthetically pleasing.
Also, I would like to say my medium is low-key 3-in-1 because it has some elements of the like paper print book. You could also do like the text to voice audiobook, and then it's online, so ebook.
Yeah.
Well, I would also counter and rebuttal and say that I do not want AI reading my book. I would
my gosh, you and AI
again.
I would like a real person reading it.
And that's a perfect segue into my opinion for audiobooks. For audiobooks, you are hearing somebody listening to it. And it's also, like Adyia said for ebooks, very convenient. I can listen to it whenever I want to. I can listen to it in class. I could listen to my textbook before I go to class, on the way to class. I could just put that textbook into 3 times speed, really get that information in the 30-minute walk that it takes me to get to class. I can listen to it when I'm driving to work. I can listen to it when I'm at work. I can listen to it when I'm heading home. I can listen to it to relax. I could have the actual physical book or the ebook pulled up and listen to it and read it faster. Audiobooks allows you not only to be very convenient in what you're listening to and when you're reading this book, but it also fully is transforming you into this world because of the fact that you're hearing it, you're feeling it, you're surrounded by it, especially if you pick up an ebook or a physical book to pair with it. So if anything,
I like that immersive experience when you're reading a book and then listening to it at the same time. That's like an amazing feeling, actually.
So if anything, you're adding on to your experience and really relaxing and delving into your audiobook. And unlike, I don't know, print, for instance, I don't have to block out so much time to sit down and look down and break my neck to read whatever I want to read. I can lay down or walk or do whatever I want to do when I'm listening to my audiobook. But that's just my opinion.
Of course, all of us have our own personal opinions about which is, of course, the best print medium, or at least, reading medium. But what we can all agree on is that drinking responsibly is very important. Binge drinking is consuming 5 drinks or more on one occasion for males and 4 drinks or more for females. However, some college students drink at least twice that amount. That is why Dream City Brewing Company has joined Wolf Sports Network and Wolf Radio's Drink Responsibly campaign to remind all of our wolves to stay safe when drinking. Never drink under the age of 21 and always have a designated driver. Oh, and throw in some good food while you're at it. We'll talk more about all different kinds of reading mediums right after the break.
You're listening to Wolves of the Written Word, where the stories are more than just what's on the pages.
We're sorry, but the DJ you are trying to reach is out of the studio right now. If you would like to leave a message, please visit at the Wolf UWG on Instagram.
For campus updates, behind-the-scenes chaos, music moments, student takeovers, or all the fun that happens when the mics are off, follow us on Instagram at the Wolf UWG. Wolf Radio, for students, by students.
show is not over yet. We'll be back with more Wolves of the Written Word here on Wolf Radio.
When you look good, you feel good. When it fits good, you feel good. Now you can rep your favorite college station with our brand new merch store powered by Old Zero Apparel. Visit thewolfUWG.com and click about. That's thewolfUWG.com and click about. If you're just tuning in, we have been talking about different reading mediums, print, audiobooks, and ebooks. Now, of course, before in the previous segments, we talked about print, audiobooks, and we had a little bit of a heated discussion about which, of course, one is the best. Now, of course, we're going to talk about the last and final print medium or reading medium that we're going to talk about.
The best
ebooks.
one, ebooks. Yay.
Electronic books. Now, for those of you who don't know what an ebook is, it's mostly just like a book that has its print and its text put onto a digital device. It can be your phone, your tablet, your computer, and realistically, these are things that kind of appear often a lot, not just like, let's just say Pride and Prejudice or a Bridgerton novel translated over to a tablet, but also articles can also count as this, fan fiction, or anyone that kind of prints out something. It's kind of a newer kind of digital age form of literature.
Wattpad,
Webtoons. Literally, I feel like Wattpad and
Tapas.
Webtoons are like the top, and
They're the
why
top.
ebooks is the
Yeah.
best. Because if you don't have like, I don't know how to explain that, but if you don't have like the ebook thing, you would never have had Wattpad or Webtoons.
That's
And
a
there's
good
so many Webtoon Wattpad books that get turned into real books because of how accessible the platforms
Or
are.
into like movies or TV shows and stuff. There's a pipeline. There
Like,
definitely is a pipeline.
Ebook has opened so many opportunities for young authors.
Yes, and I know that for electronic books, it is a lot more accessible,
Mhm.
and it is kind of creating sort of like a subgenre of literature. I don't know if you guys know this, but it is possible, just hear me out, to have a whole book told through a tweet, or even more so, tell a book or a story through like a social media post.
Yeah.
Often or not. And it is kind of like sort of a way to kind of experiment, because again, we talk about these as mediums because they're just different transformations and different stages of the original text or the story. But I know that for ebooks, we do have things that we of course like about this reading medium, and everyone in this of course cast has experienced reading an ebook as well. But what would you say is kind of something that makes ebooks more convenient for a modern reader?
The price, guys. Ebooks is so much cheaper than everything else. Like, I'm not saying do this, but if you put a VPN on, you could probably get any book in the entire world for
Allegedly.
free. Allegedly. Like, I didn't say that, but you could allegedly get like free books. Allegedly, of course.
Allegedly, of course.
I actually do agree with the price, because I know that for some reason ebooks actually do get a lot cheaper. One time I actually saw a bunch of comics like Spider-Man, the Avengers. They were ridiculously cheap. They were like maybe 99 to like $1.99 in the actual
Because you don't
final
have to
price.
like pay to get it printed out. Plus, Amazon, the Kindle Fire, I'm pretty sure they have a student discount for college students, so you're able to get a bunch more books for free.
Plus the fact that like if you have a Kindle, you can also have the Kindle app on your phone without having to get the physical Kindle. It's very helpful, and Kindle transfers over to like a lot of apps. Like you can even link your Kindle and your Libby app.
Yeah.
It's very helpful.
Yes, and I know that for electronic books, it's a bit easier to kind of like have more accessibility, since we're always on our phones, and then sometimes you don't really get as much time to go to a library. Nearest library at my house is maybe like a couple of miles away, which is good, but it's in this weird position, and I often don't go to the library as often. So I personally would like to actually have a lot more accessibility, especially when the library doesn't often have the actual book.
Yeah, because you could always get an ebook. You can't always find your print book.
That's real. That is very real. Actually, more times than not, you can always find your ebook before you find your print book. Because sometimes you'll even look on, if you have like the Georgia System Library, then you'll try to look on like their website sometimes, and you'll be able to find the ebook version before you'll be able to find like the print book version, and sometimes even before you're able to find like the audiobook version.
And this is like a pause. It's kind of a different thing I just thought of. Like, what's crazy is a lot of us have been using audiobooks for a long time, because when you were talking about the library, do you remember like the CDs that you would get with the book, and you would put it into like the CD tape and you would listen to it? That's an audiobook right there. That's crazy.
Or like when your teachers used to like play the versions in class
and then and then you read along with it.
It's so crazy how like everything has evolved over the years.
You don't realize how long you've been, honestly, all of these things, you never realize how long you've been listening or using all three of these mediums until you really sit down and you think about the fact that like I was in elementary school and they would roll the TVs out and they would play the audiobooks, or they'd play like the TV versions of the book, or like Reading Rainbow is telling me about all these books, reading me versions of these books. Or even like when I got older in elementary school, around like 5th grade, I remember there were websites that they used to send us to, and we would have like school accounts that we could listen to the entire book and then read it out on the screen.
Yeah.
And it was so good. Like full chapter books, big books.
I remember during the pandemic, I think, or maybe post-pandemic, we do actually have like a little school account where we can actually log in and read like ebooks through like the library. That's how I was able to read Harry Potter or any like classical mediums. They didn't have everything, but it was a very good accessible resource at the time.
Absolutely.
It's like they have a general amount that if you can't find every single niche book that you want, you might be able to find the popular ones.
Yes. And I know that for ebooks, it is sort of like a bit of a take and a give. I know that Adyia has mentioned before that it has a bit more accessibility and a lot more of every other medium that exists. If you want to physically see the text, you can. If you want to read text, the voice, you can. You can even adjust the fonts and everything else, and the colors and dark mode, and mostly getting everything comfortable while you're reading. But what would you say, of course, is the biggest disadvantage or the con for an ebook that we can at least all kind of recognize or agree upon? For me, I would probably say is kind of just lack of impact, because I know that whenever I buy an ebook, it doesn't leave that same impact. Like I have like personal like alternate history novels or graphic novels that have brilliant artwork and amazing stories, and I just bought it for cheap, very cheap, on my phone because I wanted to read it. But it didn't leave that same impact because I just left it on the side in my digital phone on my account, just sitting there, and it's still there now. And when I kind of go through a library or bookstore and I'm like, man, I really want to read this book. Oh, wait, I have read it before on my phone. How did I forget about this? I think that's only the only other thing that I think is a con for me, because I want to remember the books that I read, or at least have a personal impact on it. I guess that's the reason why print works well. You can write your name on it, you hold it, and it's been with you since a kid. I mean, it's just a big thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like also possibly, I don't know if this fully counts as a con for ebooks though. It's just because we were talking about earlier how there's so many different like versions of ebooks and so many different layers to it. I think that one of my things with ebooks, especially like being a person who grew up reading Webtoon and Wattpad, more so Webtoon than Wattpad though, I used to have problems with like authors taking hiatuses because
like, why are you taking so long to write a chapter?
Actually,
that is a big con.
Why are you taking so long to? That is a big con. Why are you taking so long to write a chapter?
Like years.
Like I understand, you know, we got our own problems. You got your own life. You got to go to school. Got to do your homework. Got to do whatever you got to do. Health issues. Yes. But if you don't have to do any of those things,
yeah. And you know what? I'm gonna call an author. I don't know your name for real, but Suit of Armor. Like, where's season 4? What are we doing? I've been reading that since I was like 14 and I'm 19. Come on, let's hop on it.
Like, let's actually get or even some of those authors who like, you've been writing this for way too long.
For
you
years.
Know this
Come on, let's wrap it up.
Like on Webtoon, that one where they're
Castle Swimmer?
Yes, Castle Swimmer is one of those, but no, there's one that's even before that I think it came out in like 2017 and they are still going, still has not finished the story. I think it's like Lovely or something.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I see it, but I don't know like the author's name.
I don't know the author's name, or even the person who I think it's like Sub-Zero. I don't know the author's name of that one either, but like that's the name of the story. you've been going on since like 2015. Let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up. There's not enough story to tell. There's not. And there's not, which is why you take these big breaks
To
in
figure
between.
out what you're saying next.
But we're not being mean. We're just.
And another con for me is because I read late. It's just the headache you get when you're like sitting and scrolling on your phone late at night.
Because the blue light.
The blue light, absolutely.
Blue light is definitely a killer. And just a small note, as a fan fiction author who has taken a while to post another chapter, it's a struggle,
See, okay, my thing with that is because I used to write fan fiction. Why would you start like posting if you don't have at least like some of the story finished? Because my issue is when you write, leave me on a cliffhanger, disappear for 6 months, I come back, you're still gone. It takes years for you to come up with the next chapter.
No, actually, or like I was reading this one story, which, what was it called? It was on Webtoon. I think it was like called Candy Hearts or whatever. And out of nowhere, middle of the season, no like mid-season finale, just like out of nowhere, the author stops posting the stories and then comes back a year later and it's just like, hey y'all, so I decided I'm not going to continue this. I'm not going to continue drawing or writing or anything for this. So it's over. That's it. But the only thing I am thankful for is that author decided like not to leave everybody on a cliffhanger. So she fully wrote out and told everybody like a brief summary of like what was going to happen in the future. But she had the next 3 seasons planned out. She just decided not to do it anymore.
Because I'm in the same situation with my Wattpad story. Basically, it's like a Raven and Peter Parker fan fiction. And first of all, that's another shout out to ebooks. Because who even thinks like that? And you're able to post that out in the world. It's amazing. But she wrote 4 books. And on her 5th book, she was in the middle of writing it. And she just stopped and disappeared for a year. And then came back a few months ago and was like, you know what? I'm not feeling this book anymore. Bye, guys. I've been reading this book for 4 years. It's just the heartbreak because you can't get that with like traditional books.
You can't.
Because like they have deadlines, they have like people to feed, like bills to pay.
Yeah.
And it's just so sad.
They'll just decide one day, they're like, actually
I'm done. I'm bored. I'm going to do my 9 to 5.
What really kills me is like, this is another Webtoon thing. Webtoon, ever since they started charging people money for things, which I have big problems with that because are we so serious? You've been here for years. You was not charging people money for nothing.
Webtoons does not need money.
Webtoons does not need money, but they charge for everything now. They started doing this thing where like the author will have the chapters preset and then you have to wait a certain period of time until it becomes free. Authors will then take big breaks in between whenever they're going to release their next chapter, whenever they're going to do whatever. And you can see the next chapters, but you can't access them because they are on their breaks.
And it's just like, wow.
Why?
You really did this to me. But I love the ebook community.
Yeah.
I feel like you meet so many cool people, especially when it's like a public domain book, because you're able to like write in the comic section your opinions, your feelings, your thought process. And it's really funny getting to read other people's reaction as I'm reading a book.
Yeah. Or like after you finish the chapter and then you go read the comments and everybody is talking about like different things that happened. It's very fun.
Yes, and I know that for me as an avid fan fiction writer, we do have to give, of course, our condolences towards any personal life that does affect any of the story. But I do agree, I have read fan fiction that has stopped or had hiatuses and they write for a long period of time. And it's a very rare and very comforting thing to have an actual completed fan fiction. It's just incredible. So it's about that time, of course, the end of the episode. And I know that we have had a very passionate discussion about the right reading mediums. I know that for me, I am glad that I'm able to experience all of these mediums in this day and age. I am glad to read a physical book. I am glad to at least have access to a story through an e-medium, even fan fiction. And I'm also glad to read and listen and experience an audiobook through the sound effects and the voices and the characters.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm as much as I've had opinions on all 3 of them, I am very thankful that they all exist and they give you an opportunity to use all of them, especially in different ways or even at the same time. Sometimes, starting a book paperback or starting a book with the actual print medium, then continuing it by listening and then maybe even listening to it while reading it on your Kindle or your iPad or your tablet. It's very helpful. It allows you to feel a certain level of comfort.
Yeah, and I'm definitely grateful for all three because that means I get more access to books that I want to read. Like I could pay for a print book, or I could listen to an audiobook, or I could just download an ebook, so that at the end of the day I'm just getting more books, which makes me really happy.
Yeah, more ways to read.
And
more
in the
books
end,
to read.
And in the end, of course, reading, of course, is more open. And no matter what you're reading on or what you're using, a tablet, print, or an audiobook, you're still reading, which is still the important part. But in the meantime, this has been Wolves of the Written Word. I'm your host, Sean Smith.
I'm your co-host, Janelle Michelle.
I'm your co-host, Adyia Stubblefield.
It's almost time for Wolf Star.